Hi everybody. As you can see, I'm still wearing my Jade West outfit, which if you see like the videos I just did for some songs Victorious make more sense. And I thought, since I'm all dressed up for it anyway, it might be a good time to talk about Victorious. Now I don't really do a lot of reviews anymore. I used to try. Um, this is because my primary focus is sign language, but I do have other interests, and I did want to kind of talk about this show because not because I suppose that many people care what my opinion is, but just because my channel is growing and people might like to know a little bit more about the kind of things that I like and why I do the songs that I do. I thought, not that I'm going to convince anybody not to watch Victorious or to watch Victorious, depending on what my opinion is. So, with that expectation in mind, I still want to talk about what I did and didn't like about it. Uh, the list of what I didn't like is longer, I have to be honest. My siblings, we kind of all like preview stuff for each other. Like, one of us will get into something, and then the other will be like, "Oh, is it any good?" And we're like, "No" or "Yes," and then we might all decide to start watching it, or maybe like just that person will watch it. And so we all have our shows that only we watch. And when it came to Victorious, both of them told me it wasn't that good. Although they hadn't seen many clips of it. They were right. I thought when I watched it that it wasn't that good, although the music is way better. So I'll start with like what I did like. I do think I will say I was not a Nickelodeon person as a kid. I only watched the show as an adult out of curiosity because I was like, what did all like the people my age like grow up with that my parents didn't let me watch or I just chose not to watch because I was watching Disney Channel. Nickelodeon, I didn't even know what Victorious was. I just had heard people talk about it. I'm like, okay, so it's another show about kids trying to make it big in Hollywood. I mean, I guess they saved a lot of time because they shot it in Hollywood. So, you know, good for Nickelodeon, right? Not right, since we all know probably by now the stuff that came out about Dan Snyder. And let me say, knowing that as an adult going into this show makes it much weirder to watch because I didn't have any nostalgia for it, right? So I'm like, okay, why did people like this show so much? And then like the guy who made it was a total creep, and it shows. Oh my gosh, does it? But on the plus side, I did think that the actors were a lot better than most Disney Channel actors were for whatever reason, or better directed, I guess maybe. It probably helps that they were older. Honestly, Ariana Grande was the standout character for me. Um, Jade's actress did very well to Elizabeth Gillis, and Victoria Justice actually really isn't bad, even though I know she gets a lot of hate. And they're very talented. They're amazingly talented. Uh, and Robbie, like Matt, what's his last name? I don't know. The guy who plays Robbie. I mean, his character's kind of like a dumb concept, but you gotta say for someone who had to carry a puppet around and still like act, he did very well. I actually thought Bex was probably the weakest, but that could just be my opinion. Anyway, they are very good. The adults hit and miss, but the kids were very good, and like I was impressed by how talented they were. I have to say, as an adult watching it, I'm like, wow, 16, 17, however old they were. I don't know if I could have done that. I don't know if I could do that good now. I guess depends. Then the music was surprisingly almost all the songs sounded like they could have been played on the radio. And aside from Equestria Girls and Phineas and Ferb, I haven't seen too many shows made for young adults or teens or kids that could pull that off. And the songs, by and large, were not weird like the episodes were. So that was a good part. The bad part is pretty much everything else. A lot of people think this show's really funny, and I don't understand why. I really don't. I think as the fans have gotten older, they've admitted that a lot of the relationships seem kind of toxic on Victorious, but the relationships being toxic compared to like how everybody acted all the time actually seemed like kind of almost a non-issue to me, because the whole humor of the show is my least favorite kind of humor, and it's really prevalent on adult shows. So it felt like adults making an adult show and trying to like water it down enough to be played on Nickelodeon. That's what it felt like, and I'll explain why. So my sense of humor is very situational or character based to begin with. I like wordplay. I like it when characters like are quirky, and that's like the joke. Like it's something that character would do. Okay, so this makes me a very difficult person to impress when you're watching like new material. And I'm not saying that's a good thing about myself. I actually think I'm probably too picky, but we're so oversaturated with entertainment, especially in America. And if you watch from outside America, but you live in the West, you have the same problem, or the East. I mean, anywhere where you have access to the internet, you have the same problem. So I'll just put like that. Too much. We have way too much, but especially where I live, because like there's so much entertainment, and that means anytime you start something new, it needs to impress you right away if you're gonna spend your time on it. It is not like when my parents were growing up and you just watched one channel or two channels and you watched what was on because that was what you were allowed to watch. No, 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 no. You can find every YouTuber specifically to your taste now. So what this means for somebody who grew up on books and not television is that it's pretty hard to find something that like matches like the humor I was used to. And I also grew up on watching classics with my parents, not watching any like current channels except when I was at my relative's house. Which meant that the humor didn't really resonate with me even as a kid. And as an adult, it still doesn't. So I fully acknowledge this is partially a matter of how I was raised, how I grew up. What I can't acknowledge is why like anybody thought it was a good idea to make this kind of humor a trend, and I'm going to explain why. So get ready because this is probably going to get long. But this would be my main complaint with the show. So this would be like the biggest part of the video. All right, here it goes. Every punchline, with there was a few exceptions, I'll give them that, and some episodes were better than others, I'll give them that. I think my favorite episode was the one where they all got stuck in the van in season 1 and it got hot. That probably had the best humor, though it still wasn't really that good, but I mean I had some laughing moments every now and then. And season 1 to my mind was better than the following seasons for like actually being funny. It also was less dirty, which I'll talk about later, but it just kind of felt like they were being safe the first season, and then they just thought they could do whatever they wanted. That was like the feeling I got. And again, keep in mind Dan Snyder was a creep. That feeling seems pretty accurate, but I digress. So, the punchline of every joke, like I was saying before I got distracted, is something bad happens. And it never goes the way you want. And I'll give you, I think, what was the weirdest example. The episode is Pawnee something, like, I don't know, like, yeah, Victoria Pawnee something, you know, and it's where Victoria gets stalked by a real creepy, like, girl. And the episode ends, it's supposed to be funny, with the creepy girl driving her in a car without her realizing it. And of course, the next episode, it's all forgotten, so nothing bad happened, right? I've seen this happen before in shows, usually for adults. And I'm like, oh, we're supposed to laugh at the fact that the psychotic stalker is driving her? That's so funny. Like, she could get, like, murdered, and, like, we're gonna laugh. Maybe Jade would laugh at that, but, like, most of the audience is not Jade, so I hope. And I'm like, okay, that was probably the most extreme example, but that was pretty much every episode. That was the punchline. Character wants something good to happen, they don't get what they want. They try again, they don't get what they want. It's basically describing Robbie and Kat's entire romance on the show, and Tori's entire attempt to get a boyfriend. It goes good, it goes bad, it goes good, it goes bad. And the final note, unlike most shows that would finally have it work out, if they were trying to do cringe comedy but knew where to draw the line, Victorious does not. It always ends on the cringe. Now, what puzzled me was why anybody found this, like, funny enough to invest watching the show for several seasons because I started skipping episodes in season 1 and trying to find ones that sounded a little bit more promising because it was so weird to watch and it was kind of depressing, honestly. I'm like, so the message is that nothing will ever work out for you, you shouldn't even try, and you will be a laughing stock. The few exceptions to that happening were only when they were getting revenge on someone for doing something to them, and it was usually pretty petty revenge. Like in the Freak the Frick Out episode. I'm like, alright, so basically the characters will try to do nice things. Nothing good will ever come of it. They try to do something that's pretty mean, and it may succeed, but 50% of the time it's still going to backfire. So the characters can't succeed, but they do succeed is at doing something messed up. And if they don't succeed, it'll always be when they were trying to be nice people, because I guess the message is nice people get taken advantage of in Hollywood and humiliated, which is probably pretty accurate, but like, I mean, if you want people to work for you, you wouldn't be advertising that on your show, I would think. And also, since it sadly reflects on how the actors were actually treated for iCarly and Victoria's offset, kind of like seems like self-owning to me. Like, Snyder, you're not that good at hiding it, right? Okay, like, creepy. I'm also very personally against the message that nothing will ever work out for you if you try to do the right thing. Because, like, most of the time, doing the right thing ends better than doing the wrong thing. Like, don't, like, I don't know how young my audience is, probably not that young. But hey, like, if that's what people told you growing up or telling you now that doing the wrong thing will work out well, they're lying. Okay, there are some times when it seems like it works out well, but I have my entire life known people who did things the easy way, or they cheated, or they lied, and I didn't do those things. I mean, I have a couple times, but I tried to avoid doing them, and it definitely didn't work out better when I did. And I'm like, stealing, lying, and cheating, yeah, it might, like, work for a short time, but by and large, the people who did that are currently, in my life, less successful than me. And most of them have mental illnesses or are struggling to find any kind of sense of meaning in their life and are just generally not very nice people. Not all of them are, like, nasty, depends on the person. All I could say is, though, even in my own family, that the people who did it that way versus people who didn't ended up in prison on drugs and with, like, fractured families and not being able to hold down a real job. And the people like my mother, who decided to do things the quote-unquote boring way, ended up successful, responsible with, and she's not on prescription. So, it's not like foolproof that like your life will be easy if you always try to do what's right. But I just gotta say the results to me speak for themselves, in my life anyway. So, that being said, people will say, cheat, like, like, nice guys finish last. You have to, like, have that me first attitude to get ahead. Well, that is no longer considered actually a very good attitude in many environments. Being a team player is actually valued a lot. So, don't listen to those people. And if there is some truth to it, it does not equate to being a total jackass. Like, I'm not against ambition, and I don't think that's a bad message to send, and I'm not against, like, the show Victorious telling people to, like, quote the song, like, be the main attraction, put your dream in action. I'm not singing it right, but that's fine. It's okay to want to go down in history. I would too. Like, I welcome, like, the opportunity to do so. But, frankly, getting petty revenge on people, like, while you're in, like, a school of performing arts is exactly the kind of thing would normally get you expelled if the school operated by normal rules. So it's actually a terrible thing to tell kids who want to even get into that field, if they even should want to get into it, which is a whole other conversation I can't have in this video. So yeah, it's questionable when your show's entire basis, since it is a comedy, is making fun of people for doing the right thing and not rewarding it. And if you rewatch the show and look for it, you'll see that that is the message of almost every episode, which is to me highly concerning. I'm not a huge fan of Disney Channel and their shows, though some of them were quite charming. And I remember one of the ones I watched the most, because that's when it was on, was when I was a kid, was Wizards of Waverly Place. And I didn't like a lot of the things they did on that show, but I will admit, at least they came around in the end to the right thing, just like Hannah Montana did. Even if the way they got there could be kind of bizarre. And it's just, that was not victorious. So, better acting, but worse messages. Although I think actually the Wizards of Waverly Place acting was pretty good. So, anyway, moving on. Next big problem with the show, the characters. So it's not enough that the characters themselves get proven to be idiots by the show just whenever they do anything remotely nice, but they don't actually do things that are remotely nice that often, which has been, I know, complained about by other people in the fandom as they've gotten older and realized that this isn't really how nice people act. Tori's the nicest, and even she's does mean things a lot, and so does Kat, the other nicest person. Robbie, who arguably, except for the episode where he's being a total ass, does like the least horrible things, is still treated really badly by everybody else. And is it just me, or is the Jewish character always like made into the weirdo? I mean, this show, The Big Bang Theory, I don't watch that much like many TV shows, but kind of feels that way. It didn't used to be that way, but it is that way now. And they make a big deal out of him being Jewish and being weird and kind of a perv. So, just like Howard Wolowitz. If I didn't know better, I'd call that profiling, but Andre is the best, which not many people would disagree with. The best character. He's easily the funniest, one of the better actors, and he's probably the nicest. But oh my gosh, like Trina? The heck was up with writing that character? I guess we're all supposed to hate her. I mean, it's so funny. She's so awful. Oh, Tori's parents are like negligent, borderline abusive, and we're just supposed to laugh. It's so funny that like Tori's constantly getting like mistreated by her family, and she's basically Cinderella, only Cinderella was kind of a jerk most of the time. And it's so funny that Trina's obviously been totally spoiled by her parents and neglected at them simultaneously, so she has a like need for attention, but she's also a brat. That's so funny. Let's make it the punchline of every episode Trina is in. Oh, Sinjin's like the weird freaky kid who's probably a stalker. Let's make that the punchline of every episode he's in. Jade has serious emotional issues. Are we gonna address it? Nah. Let's just make it the punchline of every episode she's in. Beck is toxic. Are we gonna address it? No, we're gonna act like he's like completely normal and Jade's the only problem. I'm not the only person who had an issue with that. I'm like, is Tori a people pleaser? Yes. Are we gonna address it? There's like one episode where they address it in season 1, and after that, she's just locked that way. Kat's like deeply traumatized and like has some seriously unhealthy coping mechanisms and is a shopaholic, which is probably an unhealthy coping mechanism. Are we gonna address it? No, it's funny! Yay! It's so funny! Hilarious, right? It's like Friends when they had like, what's her name? Rachel? The sweet hippie blonde hair girl, and like her backstory is horrible, and it's so funny, guys. Like, let's laugh at people who have tragic pasts, because that's an okay thing to do. No wonder these people go to therapy so much. Yes, let's teach kids that we laugh at people who have serious issues instead of trying to help them. Keep pushing this forward, Hollywood. Ugh. And Nickelodeon. Not that Victorious was the only show that did that. A lot of shows did that, and I thought it was messed up on every single one. Do I even need to explain the problem with this? I think we're good. I think we're good. Alright, last problem, because I don't want this video to be 40 minutes long. And you know what I'm gonna say? This show is one of the creepiest shows I have ever watched, and I have watched anime. It probably comes as okay. It's second to Naruto, to be fair, and like what amazes me is Naruto fans don't even realize how creepy Naruto is. I can make a whole nother video about that. Dare me to. I will. I'll make 5 videos about that. But let's just focus on Victorious for now. Anime is kind of famous for fan service, but we've all heard about Dan Snyder's like fan service. I'll just put it that way. Uh, and or should I just say? Should I just say foot service? Like, come on, we all know what I'm talking about. Look, the whole feet. I don't get it. Right? I don't get it. But when you're looking for it, I skipped episodes that like, but I still saw it in there, and I'm like, ew. And I felt so sorry for those poor kids. And I've actually watched bloopers, and I'll say this: I don't know them in real life, but at least at the time the show was made, these kids seemed like fairly functioning, for the most part, normal, even nice people. I don't know what they're really like, so it's hard to say. They don't come off though at all like their characters when you see them not acting, and I think that says something. It's almost like at times they're uncomfortable with how mean their characters are to each other. There's just too many scenes in the actual cut show, like where like a character says a mean line and Victoria Justice is just looking confused, and or the other characters are and they just don't react and then they just move on, and it's like, you know, they're not smiling. And I know it could be just part of the stage directions, they're supposed to look uncomfortable, but it doesn't feel like they're acting. It feels real. Like they cannot believe the garbage that they're having to say. I could be completely wrong. But I mean, we know what Jeanette McCurdy like came out like and said about like being on iCarly, which I watched some of that way better than Victorious. It's still kind of weird, but it definitely gives off a very less creepy vibe than Victorious to me. Probably because they were a little bit younger, but it's still weird, and we know like how much she suffered, and she couldn't have been the only one who felt that way, even if she's the only one who's like really written a book about it. But ugh, and the innuendos. I have seen less innuendos in movies made for adults. Okay, maybe not shows because everything has to have an innuendo now, but like, oh my gosh, it's constant. And the fake swearing. The fake swearing would probably just be funny if it wasn't for the innuendos, but with the innuendos, it just makes it more uncomfortable. Especially when you have a adult teacher calling his 16-year-old student a gank, and we all know what that's supposed to mean. When is it okay for a teacher to call a student a, you know, that's not okay. That's not okay. Ew. And he's actually the best teacher. Like, I mean, he's their favorite teacher anyway, and that's how he treats his students. Like, I would never want to be in that class. I would be very uncomfortable in that class. And can I just say the amount of times they had those kids make out and like make out for real when they were underage was kind of unsettling. I get maybe like once or twice at the like when they were getting together, but even then it should be tasteful. I don't really like it when they make underage actors kiss, because it kind of feels like the consent thing isn't really considered legally when it's a show. And that's kind of deeply uncomfortable for me. I mean, if it's animated, I don't care because it's not really happening. But, ew. Ew. And to know that there are adults filming the whole thing and directing it, watching, ew. And then when you know one of those adults is Dan Snyder, ew, ew, ew. I don't think I really need to explain. Gross. Okay, as an adult watching a show that has Phoenix Shooters teenagers, you do have kind of a crisis of conscience, I think, with that, because when you're a teenager, you don't think about it. It doesn't bother you because you're in the same age range, and it wouldn't occur to you that this is like taking. Even as a teenager, I still thought it was weird to have younger kids do things like that, or even other teenagers. I'm like, should they be doing that? But then that was me being slightly more, not super sheltered, but slightly more sheltered. At least sheltered enough to think it was odd or unusual. So that's being sheltered. I guess I was sheltered. Not that I didn't know people did that. I just didn't hang around people who did. I'll put it that way. Because I hung around church kids. So wait, couldn't do that. Couldn't do that in youth group. So at least not my youth group. Which is probably for the best. And you know, all the people who did get together always broke up like 6 months later. So, you know, I think the no kissing rule actually kind of makes sense. If you're not going to stay committed to somebody, don't engage. But again, that's me. But when we think, like, literally as an adult, that this is adults telling kids to do this, and people complain about anime drawing characters that look underage doing it, but they're voiced by adults, at least. It's still creepy. But, like, I'm not saying it's not creepy, but I'm saying, like, ethically, what's worse? Making real kids do it, or drawing people who look like kids and having adults act it out? Both of those sound messed up to me, but I mean, okay, if you're an adult, like, legally consenting to play a character who looks like a kid, that's your sick, twisted decision to make. But if you're a kid who's being pressured into this, probably by your parents, like Jeanette McCurdy, like, that is sick. It's my problem with the way child actors are treated in general, and it really, with shows like Victorious, where almost every episode has an innuendo. You know, and the whole, are you like a virgin? Are you like a vegan? Yes, let's make fun of kids on like a channel that features like mostly cartoons for being vegans. Or the other thing. Let's do that. The sad thing is most of the audience, like when the show was actually released, probably didn't understand what they were saying. So it's like the adults are sitting there being like, with their kids watching, like, what? And then the kids are like, what are they talking about vegans for? Or whatever innuendo they happen to be using. And I'm like, okay, so think about it. If it's not for the parents, and if it's not for the kid audience, who is it for? Either for like the teenagers who are like old enough to get it and not too old to be embarrassed by it, or it's for the people who are making the show. Those are the only two options, and that is creepy. I know I keep saying that, but it is. I warned you, okay, this is one of the creepiest shows I've ever seen. You may be wondering why I watched as many episodes of it as I did. The truth is, I suffer from, like, the syndrome where if everybody raves about a show, you assume there has to be something good about it, and if you watch enough episodes, you'll see it. I have occasionally had that proven right, and most of the time, not. Most of the time. I mean, yes, everyone raves about Avatar, and it's pretty good. I actually don't like it as much as most people did, and again, I missed the nostalgia phase, which is probably part of it. But I mean, as an older teen to an adult, it was okay. It's charming. It's funny. It's not my favorite show, but I like it. Yes. You know? Naruto. No. Again, dare me to make a video. I'll do it. I want to wrap up because this video is almost 30 minutes long and it wasn't supposed to be, but I mean, I just had to like get it out, like how weird this show was. I don't know, maybe I'll edit this down to be a little bit shorter, but do I have any final thoughts other than my taste in shows is weird? I shouldn't say my taste. I did not like this show. So it's not my taste. It's me trying to understand what everybody told me I was missing out on by not having television when I grew up. Oh, you didn't get to see all these shows. Oh, you don't see that? This show is so funny. Oh, you didn't read Twilight? It's so good. And now it's like cool to hate Twilight. So I'm like, so you're telling me what I didn't read when I was like 12 to like 13 and everybody said I should read is now something everybody agrees is terrible? It's almost like when you grow up and you realize that shows or books and shows written for like young teens are usually bad and you're ashamed of your face when you read them. It's almost like I just skipped that part. And like, to be fair, I read stuff when I was like a teen that I could talk about in a different video that wasn't good. But it was not Twilight, and it wasn't that level of bad. I'll just put it that way. It was just stupid, usually. And I need to end this. Closing thought, I'm not going to shame people for watching shows that I think are dumb. when they were too young to know better, I guess. My real complaint with Victorious is that people who were old enough to know better didn't seem to care how inappropriate it was, and that people still think it's a good show, even though they're now old enough to see that it was seriously messed up. And that the things people complain about it are actually smaller problems than I think the big structural problems of the show were. That plenty of people have come to like hate these shows because of what they now know, like the creators stood for. And you don't always have to hate a show just because you don't like the producer. I'm not gonna like say that, but in this case, it's so clear that the producer influenced so much in a very unsettling way. So I guess I'm like, from an ethical standpoint, is the show good enough to like justify still liking it once you know? Like, did it teach any good message? Because if it didn't teach a good message, it didn't have really nice characters, it didn't have a really creative plot, and it got canceled before it could even finish, then aside from the music, which I commit was above average, what is there to like anymore? That's my question. If you have an answer, you can comment it and I'll read it, but I don't promise to agree. But I'll hear you out if you think like there's something about this show that I am missing. I'd like to know what it was, because I watched not every episode, but I watched episodes from every season enough to like think that I would have seen if there was something good there. So, and if you just want to agree with me, like every person in the Miraculous Ladybug fandom agrees with each other how dumb that show is, then be my guest. Otherwise, you don't have to leave a comment at all. This was just me getting out my thoughts about Victorious. Maybe I'll do another show though, like this is kind of fun. Anyway, peace out guys, more song videos coming, and despite not liking the show, I will do songs from it because that was the only part I liked, and the songs really have nothing to do with the message. So, yeah, I can do that as long as they're not. I don't really remember any weird songs being there. If there was one, I won't do that. But I don't mind, like, the songs are just about jamming out and having fun. There's nothing wrong with that. So, I'd even do the theme song. It's actually pretty good. So, yeah, if you want me to do that, I can do it. Otherwise, if you don't care, then I guess I'll be moving on to the next subject. So, stay tuned for that. And thanks for watching. Bye.